Hi there, welcome to another episode of Dev to Dev. Joining me today, we have Sean and Romy.
Hi.
Great. Okay, should we start off by learning a little bit about you guys and what you were doing before North Coders, if you want to go first, Sean?
Yeah, sure. So prior to working with North Coders, I worked in education for 3 or 4 years with the charity Teach First, and prior to that I was working in sales. But I've always been really interested in technology and development, and when I found out about North Coders, it just seemed like the perfect fit for me, so made the change and came over.
Great.
Yeah, and I'm Romy, and I was working for the Parliamentary and Health Service Ombudsman beforehand, and I don't know, I got to a point where I didn't feel that I could progress there any longer, and I wasn't enjoying the work as much as I did when I started, so I just was like kind of asking anyone of my friends and family what would be a good career move for me. And a couple of my friends are already developers, and they just said, oh, there's this free coding thing that you can go along to for 3 hours, and they'll teach you like even the bare basics of any programming language you want to know, and you can see if you've got a feel for it. And when I was there, actually, I met someone that worked for North Coders who was just happened to be there tutoring. And then I asked her a million questions about how she got into it, and like then she told me that she'd done the North Coders course and blah, blah, blah. So then I had a bit of interest and researched it, and decided that actually, yeah, that was probably the best bet for me.
Yeah, no, cool. And I understand you two were one of the first groups of students to go for our new developer pathway, right? I'd be interested to hear your thoughts and experiences with that as well.
Yeah, sure.
Do you want to go first on this one?
Yeah,
Take
sure.
it in turns.
So, in fact, I was part of the very first group onto the new developer pathway, which has actually been like a huge boon for me in many ways. So, the fundamentals, the first fundamentals block of JavaScript, where you're taking through kind of lots of new concepts at quite a steep rate. It's really interesting, but I definitely found that I could have done with more time to kind of just let those sift down. The image kind of I have in my head now is of kind of you know, a jar of water, and you're getting all these new concepts and all these bits of sand and content that comes in, and it just takes a little bit for them to sort of drop down. You're constantly like reading with them, you're constantly working with them, but that time is it varies for different people. So for myself, I was really grateful for having the opportunity to reset an extra week, or reset the block, take the time to really secure and grasp hold of those concepts so that I could actually really had a strong foundation to build on as I was moving forward. Consequently, when Romy and I were knocking around with, you know, back-end Italian restaurant applications and the eponymous Spicy Sean and Spicy Romy application.
So you two worked on the same sprint then?
Yeah.
Together, you paired? Okay,
yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, because they pair up for every sprint, basically, unless it's the block review sprint, where they kind of test your knowledge and understanding of what you've learned in the last 2 weeks.
Which is part of the developer pathway thing,
part of the developer
right?
pathway. Yeah, so basically they'll tell you that you've demonstrated that you've understood and were able to use those concepts that you've learned adequately, or they'll say, well, these things maybe you struggled more at, and then they give you the opportunity to discuss that with them and actually go through why you did that, and then that you can both have a discussion as to whether you want to progress to the next block or you want to go back and repeat something. So it's not really a pass or fail, it's more, did you understand this fully? Would it be your benefit to go back a couple of weeks? And because I'm a bit of a cheapskate, like, you're getting an extra 2 weeks for nothing. Yeah. You might as well take it. I actually joked about Harriet, what if you just purposely failed every block so that you just got longer?
I think we need to keep our eyes on you.
Yeah, yeah, she said probably wouldn't let someone do that.
But no, it is super good, because those reviews like are a good time to clear up anything you've sort of. Occasionally, I feel like you're tinkering something, you'll make it work, and you'll be able to explain why it's working in your own terms, but actually ticking through and why or how you think it's working will be differently to how they'll explain it as working, kind of in more technical terms, which is like a worthwhile process to go through, I think.
This is funny actually, because when we were doing one of the sprints last week, me and Marta were literally like, this works. we have no idea why. I changed one thing, don't know why it works. And then like one of the tutors just came over and we just sat there and went, it works, it does what we wanted to do, but we don't know why, please can you explain it? And then that helps us understand more what we're doing, even though we've had like the lectures that day, because sometimes you just don't get something. Sometimes you've daydreamed for 5 seconds and you've missed a really important piece of information. So it's handy that there's always a tutor around to ask, or you can just ask other students, and usually someone will be stuck on the same thing and you can work it out together. So that's quite
Or even
nice.
just asking somebody next to you half the time, like the number of times when there'll be 3 or 4 of us sort of wheeling our wheelie chairs around the table, being like, oh, how's this working? And you end up mashing a few people's code together, and through that figuring out how it's interconnecting a little bit more.
And if there's ever a tutor sitting with someone, you just see every now and again another person will just join and just hover over and be listening. I'm like, oh, I didn't know that.
The North Coders gravity effect. Everyone drifting over. The paired programming is like quite a major part of how we learn and how the course is structured, I think. So we're pairing on at least every other day, I'd say. And there's like as we've just said, there's lots of informal pairing where you'll just be talking through the same issue or concept together.
We all sit in groups of whatever block we're on, so everyone around you is doing the same thing. So that's helpful if you do have any issues with that. And also, I think when I did the pre-course, because we worked on that completely solo almost for however many weeks you have it before you start the course, the very first day of pair programming really threw me off because none of us knew how to work with someone else. All we'd been doing was trying to get the shortest code, like the quickest time on code wars and things like that. So it was a bit of a shock, but then within 2 or 3 days, I completely understood why they were doing it. And actually I learned a lot from other people, and they learned some things from me that maybe they hadn't used, which I just happened to come across, or they just happened to come across. So it was definitely a quicker way of getting more information informally there, as well as having the lectures.
And just like the environment as well. So when I was first looking at doing a coding boot camp or like learning to code more seriously, especially having come from education myself, I was kind of quite a strong believer that it's quite a social, like it's learning's better when it's social, and the pre-course, whilst like obviously really needed and required, is quite an isolating thing in some ways. So I'm hugely appreciative now of how just like the social atmosphere around it, and you'll, in your lunch break you'll be talking over something that either another block's been doing prior to you, or they're doing ahead of you, and they'll be going, oh well, when you come to React, have a look at this or that add-on or library or something. So just like for me, being able to just like talk with someone on pair programming or talk about it all day is a lot better, because I work a lot better being able to talk about my learning rather than just have it sitting up in my own head, my own noggin all day. I'm always really appreciative of that.
Yeah, it's good as well, because sometimes you will have exactly the same problem as someone that's done it 2 or 4, 6 weeks ahead of you, and it's really good that we've got a couple of people ahead of us as well as a couple of people behind. We're in a good place at the moment because we've got those people ahead of us that we can say, well, we're doing this now, how did you deal with it? Was there any like resources that you found outside of the course that helped? And everyone's willing to share that information because it helps them to kind of knuckle down their understanding, and why not share it? We're all friends.
Yeah, it's great to hear. I guess it's kind of one of the unintended benefits of having the whole sort of 2-week developer pathway thing. You can talk to people that are maybe a little bit ahead of you, or help people a little bit further behind and share that knowledge.
Yeah, I think I think everyone here now at North Coders just has the perspective that there's this sort of temporary endpoint, so to speak, of where we'll get to the position where we're sort of industry competent. How you get there, and whether it takes one person 3 days if there's some sort of wizard, or somebody 14 weeks, 16 weeks, is really by the by in the grand scheme of a 10, 20 year long career. So I think a pathway would be the right way to describe it, in that it's completing North Coders or the course with you guys is the first stop-off point on what will be a continuous learning thing, because even the tutors we're with now, that they're constantly learning things. They'll constantly be talking about how React, for example, is changing so quickly. Like a Nat the other day was saying, React technology is moving so fast. I spend loads of my spare time just keeping up to date with those changes, and you realise that everyone is on a pathway, so to speak, of learning. So you know, it's the right, the developer pathway is in the blocks is the right way to conceive of your career in technology, I think, which is really good for me.
It's great. Well, yeah, thanks for your time, Romy and Sean. It's really nice to get to know you a little bit better and hear about your experiences on the course. And yeah, I look forward to seeing some more of your presentations in the future.
We'll let you know. Thank you.